Hello, friends, and welcome back to episode 29 of the Have I Told You About This show? The only show on YouTube where the host understands the game of Survivor way better than Jeff Probst and could easily beat Jeff in fire making. This is the show where I share with you what's been on my mind all week long. And of course, Survivor is never far from the top of my mind when it airs, especially this week's episode. I am your host, Brad Kumjenick, but as always, when Survivor's being discussed, I turn into Buff Daddy, and I give you all the deets on the greatest reality show ever made. And that would be Survivor. And we're talking about season 50, and today, episode 7. And remember, Survivor 50 is in the hands of the fans. Well, let's get down to it. You know, there's this moment, and if you're a Survivor fan like I am, I've seen every episode, many of them multiple times. You know exactly what I'm talking about here, where the game stops being a game and it just suddenly becomes a mirror for who we are and who we pretend to be and who we become when the stakes get high and the cameras are rolling and the rice is running out. And episode 7, titled Not How I Play Survivor, oh, it had many of these moments. One of those lean in, don't blink, and don't breathe moments where you can feel the entire season shift underneath your feet. And today, it's been on my mind. So let's walk through it, shall we? Not just what happened, but what it felt like. Because Survivor isn't just strategy. It's not just alliances and idols and advantages and all that. It's a story about people trying to outthink, outfeel, and outsurvive each other, while also trying to hold on to the parts of them that feel true. So let's talk about the advantage that changed everything. Let's talk about the first juror. Let's talk about who's thriving, who's sinking, and who, if the game ended today, would be holding that $1 million check. Because I ask you, have I told you about Survivor season 50, episode 7? I have not, so let me take care of that. So, episode 7 opens the way only a mid-season Survivor episode can, with that weird, heavy silence that happens after a bomb like the Blood Moon hit. You remember the Blood Moon from last week. It was 3 different tribal councils where 3 different people went home. But right now, back on the beach, everybody's pretending they're fine, pretending they're aligned, and pretending they're not replaying every conversation from the last 48 hours in their heads. Camp's tired, food's low, trust is even lower, and each new tribe that comes back from their tribal reveals someone else who was voted out of the game. And you can feel it. The merge is still fresh, the alliance is still wobbly, and everyone's trying to figure out who's actually steering this ship. As you can see from the screen, right off the bat, we get Tiffany, and she's having a total breakdown because Camilla got blindsided by Jonathan. Tiff goes on several rants and calls Jonathan everything you can think of, finally ending with swearing that she will be his downfall in this game. Yeah, right. Let's see if that ends up playing out. Can you remember anything Tiffany's ever done in Survivor that even makes her worthy of being in season 50? I can't. Anyway, we go on about that, but then next up, Aubrey decides to let us know what a boneheaded move she made by telling everyone she had the idol and was going to play it. And then, because she finally got it in her head that not playing it might actually piss off the tribe, she went ahead and told them, of all things, that she forgot to play it. look, look at that. Look at his face. You forgot to play it. Christian, like, you forgot. Ouch, ouch. That probably will come back to bite her for sure. And Rick and Christian discuss that very topic. What do you say to that, right? What do you say? Well, next, after seeing that their alliance member Colby is gone, Jonathan and Coach have a discussion, and it's about Dee and her lying to Jonathan and blindsiding him. And he did not care for that at all. Of course, no one enjoys a blindside. And Coach, of course, is not on board with that either, because he is actually the sole man of integrity in this game. And anyone else who's not playing to his standards is going to either need to fall in line or face his wrath. So says Coach. And good for him. I mean, he can think all he wants, but Dee is not going to fall in line with anyone, ever. She's going to play her own game. And Coach doesn't like it. So we'll run through the introduction, back to the island, and then the crap hits the fan the next morning. Dee goes over and tries to smooth things out with Jonathan. Right? Oh, I'm sorry, we're back in. And Jonathan, he's not having it. And he calls her out with Coach sitting right there in the hammock. And of course, Dee's true volatile side shows up, and she starts a yelling match. And Jonathan, so out of character for him, laid right back into her. Coach simply just laying there, taking it all in. And he then gives us the title of tonight's show. He looked at Dee and said, well, that's not how I play Survivor. And that immediately tells Dee she's now in trouble with the older players and the older era players. But you see, that's not enough for Coach. He then decides, after hearing all of this between Dee and Jonathan, that instead of giving us a haiku, what he's going to do is he's going to call the tribe together. Yeah, that's what you do. He sits part of the tribe down and he tells them that if they're not going to play the game with integrity the way he does, they're going to find themselves facing his wrath. And then they'll see themselves voted out of the game, almost as if Coach just has the final say in all that. Look at Aubrey's face. You say, what? Emily's like, this guy's a whack job. He's so much at it. And Emily is even like calling him out to, you need to chill. And then Emily's like, all right, Coach may have to go. You see, up until that moment, it was pretty clear with the tribe that Dee was the one who needed to go. She was a liar and a backstabber and a blindsider. But Coach decided to grab both feet and stick them as firmly and as far back into his mouth as he could. And now his head rests firmly on the chopping block. Because soon, you have people like Tiff and Dee and the other people, Devins and Emily, and they decide Coach has lost it. Now, he needs to go. Well, then next up, we get Ozzy and Rizzo, and they return from exile. And they find out that they very luckily avoided not one, not two, but 3 tribal councils, and they were safe from the Blood Moon. Not bad. I mean, overall, good choice. I mean, it was luck. Ozzy got it and took Rizzo with him. And Ozzy's like, whoa, 3 tribal councils. Hokey smoke. Check that out. So then Coach tells Rizzo that Dee is on a witch hunt for Coach. And of course, Rizzo wants to align with Coach, and because Rizzo wants to align with everybody. And he goes along with Coach, which makes sense. So Coach is telling everybody here, you're going to listen to me. I'm the one running the show. And Rizzo just looks at him like, dude, you're out of your mind, but okay. I'll just smile and we'll go along with you. Jonathan takes it all in. Rizzo's like, whatever. And then Rizzo talks to Siri about what's happening. He wants her to tell him what's been happening while he was at exile. And then Rizzo tells Siri what Ozzy told him, which was basically everything about the idols and the extra vote. Not bad. You expect him to do that. Emily then steps upon these people meeting. Rizzo and Siri and Ozzy. And Emily tells Rizzo that Dee told her about Rizzo's idol. And that's all he needed to hear to decide Dee has to go. Not only that, but which is different gameplay for Rizzo. He actually goes to Dee here and he confronts her. He said, Emily said that you told her about my idol. And she, of course, lied to Rizzo. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. She's crazy. And then Dee realizes that was an incredibly boneheaded move to tell Emily anything, because Emily can't keep any information to herself ever. Ever. Well, Dee then goes to Tiffany, right? And tells her all the mistakes that Dee's made. Tiffany, of course, just nods her head and she just kind of agrees. And Emily's talking to Jonathan about what's going on. And just Dee realizes I've made some bad mistakes. Tiffany, that's a blurred out curse word you see there. Like, oh yeah, you did. And Dee's got to deal with everything that's happening. Well, next up, a boat appears to the tribe's island. Ozzy grabs the note and he reads it and says that someone must get on this boat immediately. Well, Stephanie comes up with an idea. Okay. She says, why don't we put all of our shot in the dark things in a bag and let's just pick it out. Whoever we pick goes. And then Stephanie's name gets drawn. So she grabs her stuff, gets in the boat, and takes off. Now we have the journey. Steph arrives on the island to see this contraption. And she's like, oh, anything but a puzzle I should be okay with. But this thing is a contraption where, as you can see here, you have a strap that you put on one of your wrists. You must hold your head over you must hold your arm over your head for about an hour. That whole water thing above you needs to leak out, which will let this pot along the side. You see the water leaking out there. You keep your hand up, and then this pot will break after a specific period of time. It's about an hour. So she ties one arm up into the cuff. I guess she mentions one of her arms because the last time she was on Survivor had reconstructive surgery on it, on the shoulder for a rotator cuff. So she has to use her other arm. And if she can just keep it up there long enough, she can win some form of advantage. And this is where they showed her on her previous season and that shoulder. So she puts the other arm in the cuff and waits and waits and waits and waits. And that's the pot. It's not going anywhere. She keeps waiting. The water keeps going out. And before long, the pot drops. And she wins the challenge. Which was good. She managed to win the challenge. And what she won was a steal a vote advantage. Well played, Stephanie. Now. Only if she would just go back to the island and not tell anyone that she won anything. And then actually sell that well enough to get people to believe her. One would think that wouldn't be too hard to do. And she even says, I'm going back. I'm going to tell them I didn't win anything. And she goes back to the island and she tells them, look, I had to hold my arm up for an hour and I couldn't do it and I lost. So she goes back, tells them exactly that, and she told them she lost her vote. But Siri immediately sees through the lie and then grabs Stephanie and takes her to the water well, where Stephanie immediately told Siri that she indeed did win and now she has to steal a vote. Really? Really? That's what you want to do? Look, that's the worst move you can ever make in Survivor. I've said this on every episode. Is to tell anyone that you won anything. But evidently, that's an impossibility in seasons 50 of Survivor. It's an impossibility. Clearly, I missed the part where Jeff told everyone at the beginning that if you win anything, you must immediately tell everyone what you won. This is simply insane and immediately puts a target on you that you don't want. Look, I don't care if Siri tells me she doesn't believe me. Here's what I'd say back to her. Well, that's on you then, Siri. And now I'm a little wary of you trying to say that I'm a liar. See, you turned their insecurity back on them. And now that gives you a reason to go back to tribe and tell everybody Siri just called you a liar. Now you've got something on Siri. No one's had anything on her yet other than the one time she totally should have went home when she flubbed the challenge. But we can't vote Siri out, evidently. You see, you use others' insecurity against them in this game instead of just blabbing everything you have and telling everything that you have. But clearly no one is smart enough to figure that out in season 50. I guess that's something I should just patent because no one else can see it. Everyone's playing the stupid game. And then, of course, guess what happens? She tells Steph, oh, I won't tell anybody. I will not tell a soul. Except Rizzo 5 seconds later. Of course, she's going to tell everybody. Friends, this is why you keep your mouth shut when you win anything. And if people say, well, I don't believe you, we'll put it back on them and make that a reason to vote them out. This is simple. Well, of course, then she is going to tell Ozzy, and Rizzo will tell Ozzy, and then Ozzy knows, and Ozzy's going to tell everybody, and then everybody knows what Stephanie has. Well, Rizzo then does tell Siri about his conversation with Dee and what Dee did. And that, I asked Dee, I said, hey, and, and that would immediately got Siri wanting to vote out Dee, as she already saw Dee as a major threat in this game, and rightly so. So, challenge time. This is extremely similar to the challenge that we saw earlier in the season where Kyle tore his Achilles tendon and had to go home. Hey, Probst and Survivor crew, can't you come up with new challenges for this amazing season 50? 7 episodes in and we're already repeating challenges? You can and should do better. You must do better. You wonder why ratings aren't as great as you hoped they'd been so far this season. And it's the things like this that true Survivor fans look at and go, seriously? Anyway, the 14 remaining survivors will have a schoolyard pick for teams. And the winning team will all get a Chinese takeout dinner. But they do not all win immunity. All of the winners then will have to compete against each other, and only one person out of the 14 will be immune tonight. Now, I like that. I like that a lot, right? Now, again, this wasn't picking rocks for luck. This was a schoolyard pick. Jonathan on one side, Ozzy on the other. And as you can see here, Jonathan's team consists of Jonathan, Siri, Chrissy, Rizzo, Tiffany, Coach, and Aubrey. And that is unfortunate, as this challenge requires a lot of strength, and Jonathan is the only person with any strength to move this gigantic ball and keep it going, not only getting it trapped, untrapped out of the sand, but moving it up and over obstacles and stuff. You have no one else with any strength there behind him that can help him at all on this. And it was clear to me that this team would more than likely lose this challenge. All you had to do was look. And this was a schoolyard pick. Remember, Jonathan picked this team. On the other side, you've got Ozzy, Rick Devins, Christian, Dee, Emily, Stephanie, and Joe. So you've got Ozzy, who can definitely handle challenges. Joe is a fireman and strong. Devins can hold his weight. We've seen little Christian, who looks like nothing, can more than hold his own, as he's been doing that in challenge after challenge. And you've got D, who's a challenge beast as well. It's clear who's going to win this challenge. So let's get on with it. Ozzy's team, of course, did get off to a small lead. As we see, they got to the ball first and started to move it, right? And they got their ball out first. But it's amazing. Jonathan's team managed to catch up and even surpass Ozzy's team. But Jonathan's only got so much gas in the tank, and it didn't last long. Ozzy's team got up to the wall and to the puzzle the fastest. In the end, it did get close, but Ozzy's team was victorious, as we will see here shortly. Emily struggled with the keys to unlock their things right here, and that gave Jonathan's team the chance to move their ball ahead, but it didn't matter. They got their, Jonathan here has to get each and every one of these people up there literally by himself. That's too much for him to do, but particularly when you have larger people like Siri. Christian, Ozzy can just toss him up there. It's not a big deal. And Jonathan, or Joe, got himself pretty much up there, and then it's just tossing the little people up. And then you see Jonathan, he's gassed at that point. Rizzo's looking at him like, "Are you alive?" So it comes time to do the puzzle, and we go back and forth with this puzzle. At this minute, it looks like they've got half the puzzle done here, Jonathan's team, and they're way ahead. And then all of a sudden, they put pieces where they shouldn't. They're like, you notice there's no O there for the survivor, and Coach just wouldn't listen and struggled. And this is what they kind of ended up with, a mess. On the other side, Christian just very calmly moving things around, getting the puzzle, and they won. So now Ozzy's team has won the challenge, so they all get the Chinese takeout. Okay. So good for them. The other team goes back and has to lose. Now, here's what we have for this challenge. This team had to stand on this wooden plank, and it has three colored, you see the colored zone, then wood, then colored zone, then wood, then it has a colored tip on the end. And there's this long pole that has a plate on the end of it, and you put the ball on the plate. And you have to basically balance that pole in your head. And from time to time, you have to continue to move forward. And you can see those balls balance precariously on that plate. So here we see the team, Devins, Christian, Joe, Stephanie, Ozzy, Dee, and Emily. And it came down to Ozzy, Joe, and Dee. But the challenge beast Ozzy ended up winning immunity, which was pretty crazy for Ozzy. He hadn't won anything in 15 years. That was his first win. Check out those cuts on those legs, man. That's crazy. It's crazy. They whittle each other down, and Emily's out first. Stephanie tries to hang in there, but she had just done that huge challenge. They have to keep moving up. Christian looked like he was solid and then just dropped. So you've got Ozzy sitting there, Stephanie out. D, you figure she's just going to hang in literally forever. But what happens is Joe actually kind of tilted his pole up a little bit, which helped keep the ball back. So he was in there for a long time, but then he dropped, and then Ozzy wins. So this team gets to go enjoy a Chinese takeout. Ozzy's team got to go enjoy the Chinese takeout, but they didn't talk about the game at all, at least none that they showed with each other, which is what I figured D would have used that time to definitely get in there and talk about, oh, look, everybody I know is thinking about me, but it's really like Jonathan or Coach we need to get out. The other tribe who lost talked about the fact that D was the easy and clear choice. So there you see them all enjoying their Chinese. And they're not really talking much about the game. Tiffany's like, whatever. But you think they're going to try to vote out D. And so Coach and Aubrey are back talking. And then Aubrey then tells us that no matter what, she's going to use her idol tonight to make up for lying about it, which absolutely took her name out of the running for being voted out tonight. That was a strategic move by Aubrey. Well played. But then, unfortunately, what happens is Coach lost his mind. He literally lost his mind. He began telling people how to vote. You will vote this way. You will vote for D. You will vote for D. You will vote for Tiffany. We're splitting the votes between D and Tiffany because if D uses her shot in the dark and wins, we need to make sure Tiffany goes. He was telling everybody that, but he didn't talk at all to people like Christian or Devins because he called those people, they're the ones in the middle and we can't tell them any information. Okay. But he later found out that someone in his alliance did tell Rick and, Devins and Christian about the votes and how they were going. And Coach then gets completely pissed because, as I mentioned, he considered them to be in the middle. Okay. So in an awesomely ignorant move, one of the worst moves I've seen in games so far, Coach actually goes to Devins and Christian here, and he told them, you people in the middle should not have been told how the votes were going. Hey, Coach, great way to take a noose and put it around your neck and really tighten it as far as you can, throw it up over a tree, and then jump off the platform you're standing on to hang yourself, you idiot. Not everyone in camp, believe it or not, seems to be changing their minds. And now about D, and it's clearly time now to vote off the bully Coach. See, there's Devins and there's Coach saying, so the people in the middle know. Devin's like, I want to know who told him. So, and he's talking about Christian, and Devins is like, that's my best buddy. Like Devins is like, no, he's got to go. He's got to go. So before the first half of the show was D is gone. It's clear D's gone. The second half of the show is it's clear Coach is gone. So guess what? It took Rizzo, of all people, to go to Coach and to tell him about his idiotic blunder that he just made with that talk about being in the middle, and that he needs to shut up and chill out or else he's going. And Coach actually took that very well from Rizzo. In fact, he took it so well that he pretty much shut up for the rest of the time and even through most of tribal council. Speaking of tribal council, yeah, they're all still talking about Coach because Coach decided to do some stupid haiku stuff and talk to himself, and everybody's like, yeah, it's clear. This is the second half of the show, what I call the filler part, where everybody's like, okay, okay, it's got to be Coach. It's got to be Coach. Yeah, we get Coach. Everybody here knows we're up against Coach. Coach is still talking about haikus, and it's tribal time. Now, tribal started off tense. Friends, this is the first tribal in Survivor history. There's never been one like this before that had 14 people at it all at once. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to get two, maybe three people to agree on something, which can be pretty much impossible, but try 14. That's impossible. This tribal is one of those, everyone is pretending they're calm, but their eyes are screaming type of nights. And Jeff begins by asking the question, the one, how stable do you guys think things are right now? And everyone kind of gives the same answer they always give. Well, Jeff, things are always changing. But you can feel it. Somebody's going to get blindsided here. And the funny thing is, Emily actually begins to get us started off with real conversation. After everybody says, oh, this and Joe mentioned something about there's a hierarchy at the fire station that we go by, and that's how we should do things here. And Siri says, ain't no hierarchy here, Bubba. There's only $1 million check. And it ain't going to the person at the top. We're all fighting for it, right? Which was funny. And, everybody's got to have their little say in it. And then, Emily kind of started by saying every kind of strategy and lies were flying around camp. Jonathan then called out Dee, who immediately fought back. You can see her pointing at him. And the funny thing is, Dee stood up at this moment and she starts whispering to people that she has the votes to get out Coach, right? She can get Coach out and that they should vote with her to do that. But Jonathan doesn't let that go at all. And he stands up and starts whispering to other people as well, but we can't hear what he's saying. But the funny thing is, Coach, he just sits there. He doesn't say anything. And that, for Coach, is pretty crazy. Everybody's got this lost look on their face. See? Do Coach, I got the numbers. Do Coach, I got the numbers. Right, Coach, I got the numbers. And Jonathan's like, no, that ain't going to happen. So we talked to Joe. Joe talked to Siri. Siri's talking to Tiffany. Dee's looking over what's going to happen. Steph's talking to Coach. And then it's time to vote. So we all go vote. And Coach's plan was to split the votes on Tiffany and Dee, as I mentioned, in case Dee played her shot in the dark. And she did play it. But friends, I said this before she ever even stood up to give that shot in the dark to Jeff. Because there she's raising her hand and she gives him the shot in the dark. And he, takes a look at it and says, this is a shot in the dark. And he takes a look at it. Not safe. Friends, do you think they're going to give a millionaire, the person who had won this game before, a shot in the dark that's, yes, you're safe? Of course they weren't. She didn't have a chance of that saying safe, right? So after that, before that, I forgot, Aubrey did go play her idol. She said, this idol is an idol that everyone knows about. Therefore, it's not an idol. I should have played it last week. I didn't. Here. So Aubrey, great job. So as I mentioned, Coach's plan was to split the votes between Tiffany and Dee. Dee played her shot in the dark. It did not work. Coach then gets one vote, and that was from Dee. And then Dee and Tiffany split all the rest of the votes to where it's a tie. There's one more vote to read, and it was for Dee. And Dee got had. Dee. And she said that she felt like crying. She couldn't believe it. But friends, Dee wasn't the obvious vote at the end. She wasn't even the easy vote. But Dee was the smart vote. And that tells us something very, very important about this season. Here's what it tells us. The cast is here to play now. Finally, after 7 episodes. So let's talk about that, all right? Who do we think right now is playing the best social game? Because if Survivor 50 has taught us anything so far, it's that the social game is the engine that drives the rest of the game. And right now, one person is playing the game on a level that feels almost unfair. And she has been for so long that it just seems like there's no end to it. And that's Siri. Siri's doing Siri things. If you've watched her across the years, and especially this season, you know exactly what I'm talking about. She's that warm presence that people gravitate toward. She's the calm voice in the storm. Remember, she totally blew a challenge, and it would have been the most smartest, easiest thing to vote her out, and yet here she is in week 7. She's the person who can sit next to you, ask you how you're doing, and somehow walk away with you giving her every piece of information she needs without ever seeming like she asked you for a thing. You know, again, her power is not loud and abrasive. It isn't flashy. It's not even manipulative. It's just relational. It's social. Siri makes people feel safe. She makes them feel heard. And she makes them feel like that she's with them no matter what, even when she's quietly steering them to do what she wants. And the magic of Siri's social game is that she never looks like the one in charge, ever, even when she is. She's the emotional center of the tribe, the person everyone has to check in with. The one whose read on the game becomes the tribe's read on the game. Friends, that's not just good social play. That's elite social play. Want to argue with me? Hit down in the comments. I would love to hear anyone's argument for how Siri is not running away with this game socially. But there's more. Let's talk about the strategic game. Shift the gears now. Got social out of the way. Let's talk about strategic. One player. Christian Ubecki. Christian is playing chess, and everybody else here is playing tiddlywinks, not even checkers. Listen, Christian's never loud, and he's never flashy. He doesn't overplay the game. He's doing the thing where he lets other people think they're in control, while quietly nudging the game in the direction that he wants. Just ask Mike about that. And even without winning immunity this week, his positioning was impeccable. He was insulated. Did you ever hear his name mentioned? No. He's trusted. He's got that going for him like Siri. His name again was never in danger again this week. He's dangerous in the exact way you want to be dangerous in Survivor. Quietly. Have other thoughts than that? Please head down to the comments. Let's discuss it. I'd love to discuss it and hear what you think about it. Now, who is absolutely playing with their torch 3/4 of the way snuffed out? Who's playing the worst game you've ever seen? For week after week after week after week after week, it's been Ozzy. So you know the choice is Coach. Let's talk about the opposite end of the spectrum here from Siri and Christian. The player whose game is unraveling in real time, and unfortunately, it's Coach. Coach is playing the kind of game that makes everyone else look at each other and silently go, yeah, he's got to go. It's not because he's a physical threat, clearly. He can't even go swimming without all of his muscles tightening up. And he's not a strategic mastermind. Good Lord, look at this episode. You don't tell people how to vote. It's because he's become the person who's actively exhausting this tribe. And we're already 7 episodes in, and we're exhausted and we're starving. We don't need anyone else adding to that. First, there's his lecturing. Coach has decided that he and only he knows the correct, honorable, integrity-filled way to play Survivor. And he keeps telling everyone that over and over and over. He's policing people's gameplay like he's the morality sheriff. And it's rubbing everyone the wrong way. And then, there's just the head-scratching haikus. Look, we know what you're famous for, Coach. You don't need to run it down our throats. This unhinged, wandering, mystical warrior poet haikus he keeps reciting this week even to himself because no one wants to listen. And he does it to the camera. He'll talk to the trees, anyone within earshot. And look, a little eccentricity, it's fun. It's fun. But Coach has way crossed into the tribe is actively avoiding him territory. And that's the kiss of death in Survivor. After he bossed people and went on this crazy haiku thing, who is going to tell him the truth about anything going forward? Because when you're annoying people and you're lecturing them, when you're telling them how they're allowed to play the game, you stop being a number and you stop being an ally. You start becoming a target. And right now, Coach is the one player everyone agrees they want gone. Again, not because he's dangerous, because he is draining. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments. Well, how's fan reaction and the ratings going so far? You heard me say that the previous week's episode had been one of the lowest rated, not just this season, but in series history. But fans this season have been all over the place with ratings. The ratings have been mostly strong. They're not record breaking, pretty steady. But I mentioned last episode was the lowest rated of them all. But fan chatter online is loud. I'm having a lot of discussion with other friends online who are watching this, and sometimes these discussions are lasting for hours. People are still very much invested. And the general vibe is this. The season feels like old school Survivor with new school chaos. And honestly, I think they're right. Now, let Buff Daddy give his prediction. I do this every week. So let's say, if the game ended now, who would win? If it ended right after this episode, who should win? My pick, Christian Ubecki. Why? Again, he's balanced. He's strategic without being threatening. He's got a social game, not being manipulative. He's not on series level, but he's close. And he's visible without being a target. He's the kind of player who gets to the end because no one realizes how good he is until it's too late to do anything about it. Do you agree? Do you have a different front runner than me? Let Buff Daddy know down in the comments. All right. Watching episode 7 reminded me of something I think about a lot. And that's how quickly things can and do change in this game. How one moment, one decision, one conversation can tilt everything. I think the producers of this show this season have done the best job that they've done in any season of leaving you totally clueless of who's going home. In previous seasons, particularly last season, when I was watching this with other people, we would look at each other and go, oh, it's clear this person's going home. And about 90% of the time we were right. Here, they've been playing it pretty much. There's a few episodes when many people could have went. Like this episode, it was first half D, second half Coach. Clearly it's going to be Coach now. And then it ended up being D. You just didn't know. And I love that about this game, right? It's a reminder we're all trying to navigate shifting alliances. We're trying to make the right call with incomplete information a lot of the times in our lives. And we're trying to trust the right people. And we're just trying to survive another day. That's why I love this show so much. Every week, it reminds me that this game isn't just happening on an island with some strangers. It's happening 24/7 all around you and me. All right. Thanks for hanging out with Buff Daddy today as I emptied my mind of all things episode 7 of season 50 of Survivor. I want to thank, as always, each and every one of you who have liked, subscribed, and commented on the show. From my heart, you have my gratitude. I always listen to you, all listen to all the comments, and hope you've been liking the shorter shows and more of them. So, I will see you next time when Survivor 50 gives us the next twist, the next blindside, the next moment when everything tilts again. Have a great rest of your week. I'll see you next time.